All right, guys, welcome back to the show. It is Thursday night, so it is time for It's Way Too Late with Alan Mosley, where we take a little bit of a deep dive into topics that we either didn't get a chance to discuss or didn't discuss at great length during that week's episode of It's Too Late, which is Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. If you give me just a minute here, I'm trying to... the Odyssey stream didn't go live right away, so I'm going to take care of that really quick. And then we shall get started. Hope everybody's doing all right. Hope everybody continues to be all right. I hope you're not in Ukraine right now, from wherever you are listening. I hope you're not in Ukraine. Oh, man. Good times. You know, when we were talking about just a really, really broad stroke overview of the situation over there on last night's show, we were busy doing the show, so we didn't realize that shit was kicking off literally while we were doing the stream. And so, like, an hour after the show was over, I sit down at the computer. I was like, "Oh, wow!" So, so there's some updates there. But we're gonna talk a little bit about that here tonight. People. There it is. That's what I'm looking for. I'm having a hard time uh, multitasking here. All right, I think that's good. I'm going to get this created and see if it's going to actually like kick us off live because I'm already streaming. You know how it is. Tim Weissong is here, who says, by the way, I'm calling soft beef tacos beef cannolis now. It may not even be close to being right, but it annoys my wife, so that's a win. Well, you know, something time preferences, something. You're the one that's got to live with her, not me. So, just something to keep in mind there. Let's see. Are we live everywhere? Are we actually live everywhere now? It looks like we are. Yeah. All right, well, that's good. I'm actually going to close my browsers so that I can't see news updates for the short term. So if nukes start flying while I'm in the middle of the show, somebody just let me know in chat so that I can get a little bit more updated information. Be awfully nice of you if you did. All right, we're going to give a little bit more time for people to show up here. And yeah. And then we'll kick this thing off. According to my platform here, there's like literally no one here. So I'm not going to do a stream for literally no one. Your show would go down in history. Well, it would definitely go down. That's for sure. It would go down. So that is technically correct. So anyway, while we're waiting for that to get caught up here, I don't try to base the stuff that I say or do entirely on what other random people's reactions are. I've got my trusted sources of information that I go to see what's going on. Not that that necessarily means I just automatically trust or believe 100% of everything anybody says. I try to come to my own conclusions. However, before we get into really deep into the whole Ukraine-Russia thing, I do want to have a little bit of a meta conversation about some of other folks out there, some of the anti-war crowd out there, which is so important. Yeah, I mean, it's so important to be anti-war. If you're not at a baseline firmly anti-war, then I mean, what are you even doing? You don't belong in society, much less in our little corner of it. But I've seen a lot of people saying things like, I didn't think this was going to happen. I didn't think that Putin was going to pull the trigger, if you will, on this becoming a real hot war. And I know, by the way, that that's a little bit disingenuous even there, because that region of Ukraine has not been a peaceful place for quite some time. So just because Russia is doing genuine kinetic military operations throughout the rest of Ukraine doesn't mean that the Donbass region in particular was a very peaceful place to live for several years now. But I've seen a lot of the anti-war community just basically saying, I can't believe it. I didn't predict this. I thought that it was just a lot of bluster and political theater. I didn't think it was going to get to this point. And you know what? Nobody bats 1,000, right? Nobody's perfect. I actually had said that I kind of I don't think that World War III is going to start, but I did have a bad feeling that it was going to escalate. Um, yeah, police says, I think even Scott Horton said he was a little caught off guard by the direction this has gone. A lot of people were. Um, but so you know what? Nobody's perfect. Nobody can accurately predict everything that's ever going to happen. But I feel like the more important things in terms of what the questions that people have are, a lot of people ask why things are going the way they are, and then people wonder, well, what's going to happen next? Um, and those are totally natural ways to react. People always want to ask themselves why, and then they always want to know what's going to happen next, and that applies to like every single issue on Earth. I mean, who buying a lottery ticket doesn't want to know what's going to happen next, right? Um, but I also want to talk about in the kind of meta part of this before we get into it, that it's okay for some people to have not gotten this one 100% right in terms of just predicting what was going to happen, but it's better that a lot of those same people do understand it. Um, and I want to pause right there really quick to say, understanding why something is happening is not condoning it. I don't condone the violence that's taking place in Eastern Europe right now. I don't condone Vladimir Putin and the actions that Russia is taking in Ukraine, but I can understand it without condoning it. Um, and I also want to say, too, there's a lot of people out there that, talk about America's place in it, what's going to happen. Um, would things have been different under someone like a Trump versus a Biden? That kind of stuff. And you know what? I don't really think that's very useful to discuss. I think the people who are discussing that honestly think that they have some sort of really great say in matters of foreign policy when they really don't. And this situation has been brewing for many, many, many years, in different eras, from pre and post World War II, through the Cold War, through the fall of the Soviet Union, through to the 20 teens, and then to today. Um, so it's not any one actor; it's a lot of things. But hopefully, by the time we get done discussing this, and I'm gonna leave the floor open so that some other folks can kind of put in their 2 cents and talk about it as a group. I hope that the big questions of the things like the whys and the what's next, um, can can at least have some prognostication there. Um, okay, good. We're on Odyssey now. That's good. Let me. I don't think Aaron's here, so I ain't got my links. I need my links for so people can support the stream. Let me grab those really quick, and then we'll jump in. It's almost as if I should have done this a few minutes before I started. But in my defense, uh, I totally forgot about setting up Odyssey before we started, so that's why I'm a little bit behind. There it is. Hey, Mary. I got. I'm copy pasting my donation links, Mary. That's what I'm doing right this second, and then we're gonna get going. Pin that bad boy. Go over here. Go over to chat. Bless your heart. Ain't that the damn truth? All right. All right, there we go. Cool. Well, now that we've got that squared away. So anyway, let's get into it a little bit. So first of all, I see I see a lot of people comparing Vladimir Putin to like Hitler, right? Like everyone's pulling out the Hitler and Chamberlain analogies of, oh well, we. Of course, everyone who says we means your sons and daughters. They don't mean themselves. We, as in your sons and daughters, need to go fight in Eastern Europe, because if we don't, it's going to be Hitler and Chamberlain all over again, and he's going to take over all of Europe, and then where are we going to be without our allies? So, so first of all, that's a little bit over the top. Um, and we're going to get into the reasons why that analogy doesn't really work here as we go. So the first thing is, so Swole Keesley says, let's start at the beginning of this chapter with George W. withdrawal from the anti-ballistic missile treaty in 2001. I mean, that definitely plays a role, but that sure as hell ain't the start. The start goes way before that. So first of all, let's go back to Stalinist Russia. So Stalinist Russia was not particularly kind to the people of Ukraine, as I think that's putting it pretty mildly. And because of that, there there were definitely some pockets of Nazi sympathizers within the Ukraine, because as far as they were concerned, that was people that were killing Russians, and Russians had been starving and killing them. So, enemy of my enemy is my friend, which of course is a boy, if that's not a theme that just plays over and over and over again, right? So so again, while we're certainly not siding with neo-Nazis in the Ukraine, it's good to understand where they came from. Like how does a people just suddenly evolve into having pockets of like literal Hitler worshipping neo-Nazis in their midst? Uh, in their case, it was because they were willing to draw attachment to whoever was opposed to Stalin. Um, and so there you go. And then following the war, the Soviets were ruthless in their treating of places, of towns, of people that they saw as sympathizers or collaborators with the Germans. Um, so then, obviously, fast forward just a little bit, you have the dawn of the Cold War, and you have an era in which the American government, and particularly in the CIA, is involving itself in coups, uh, and under the guise of trying to stop the spread of communism, but really just trying to hurt its geopolitical rival, the Soviet Union, and then now modern day Russia. And at the towards the end of that era in history, you have something that as of today has caused a lot of controversy. And that is, did the West, and particularly the United States via NATO, did the West agree that NATO would not expand eastward towards Russia, not putting its military installations, and particularly its missile systems and quick strike abilities, closer to Moscow? Now, this was something that was understood to be true for a long time. And then more modern scholars, i.e., regime bootlicking pieces of shit, then we're trying to make all of these technicality arguments that it wasn't true. That, oh, there was never actually a promise that to the Soviet Union or to Russia that NATO would not expand eastward. Oh well, that they, if there was a promise, that promise was to the Soviet Union, but the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. Or, oh, it was discussed, but there was no official documentation. So my sources, and I'll let you just read that for yourself, but my sources are that that's just all bullshit, and there absolutely was an agreement, and We could do a whole other episode on what the word in the agreements of the goddamn American Empire means. Uh, that it carries any water at all, which it totally doesn't. And I know that there's people out there that will make that will that will talk about, well, the Ukraine, took a step back from the table in terms of nuclear armament, and they only did that in exchange for promises from the West that they would be defended should Russia become an aggressor. And so there's some debate there on, well, who promised who what, and what things need to be upheld. But I am operating under the belief that yes, indeed, there was an agreement that NATO would not expand towards Russia. Okay, let's take a jump forward to 2014. So in 2014, actually, let me pause really quickly before 2014. So the Donbass region of eastern Ukraine that currently is featuring the two new independent republics of Donetsk and Luhansk. That region had had an opportunity to join motherland Russia before, and Putin said no. And this is a really important factor, because while I do believe in the right of political self-determination, I believe that peoples have a right to secede. If that region is overwhelmingly Russian, pro-Russia, culturally Russian, and wants to break away from Ukraine, because they see Ukraine as offensive to them, as being literally run by neo-Nazis as of today, then I believe that they have the right to do so. Now, obviously, the picture gets really complicated, because they're not just going to be able to declare themselves independent republics and then all's well that ends well. The Ukraine had no interest in allowing that today, and they were doing it under the pretense, obviously, that they were going to have the backing of Russia, their neighbors. So very powder keg type of a situation. But Putin, while acting in a way that's very rational, I understand why he's doing what he's doing. That doesn't excuse what he's doing, especially committing violence. And it particularly doesn't excuse him today, because you can't make the argument that Putin is only exclusively defending Russia's interests, and in particular are helping those pro-Russian new republics to, peacekeeping operations, defending them from their terrible former neighbors in the rest of Ukraine. That argument just doesn't carry a lot of moral weight on the pro-Putin side, because they had wanted to join Russia before, and Putin had turned them down. He did not what's the word? The Donbass region was not annexed and brought in to mainland Russia. And you would say, well, why not? If that's where they ultimately are going to end up, and if they're predominantly Russian culturally, and they wanted to join Russia, and they may ultimately be joining them now, why didn't that happen before? And why didn't they have the express support of Putin's Russia before it reached this volatile point? And the answer is that what we're seeing today, a lot of it is reaping what the West sowed, but it's also Putin reaping what he sowed as well. So he was not in favor of the Donbass region being annexed from the Ukraine and joining Russia before, because he liked having so many effectively pro-Russian dissidents remaining as Ukrainian citizens. He didn't want them to become Russian citizens. He wanted them to remain Ukrainian citizens, because he was thinking in the medium to long term, we will effectively have control of the Ukraine if a huge block of Ukraine citizens are effectively Russians, and those people are being involved in politics, are running for office, or winning elections. If the Ukrainian state is being run by pro-Russian factions, then more's the better for Russia. They don't even have to dirty their hands at all. But it sort of backfired on him. It it wasn't it backfired on him in the sense that in 2014, under the Obama administration, Obama plays a role in this as well. They they effectively instituted a coup. They armed and supported literal neo-Nazis, like actual Hitler worshipping neo-Nazis, to take over the Ukrainian state, take over the Ukrainian government, and to oust the legitimately elected government before. And the reason why they did that was twofold. One is the government that had been there was not sufficiently pro NATO enough for them. They want Ukraine to join NATO or otherwise be pro NATO so that they would have another foothold that much closer. Right on. I mean, you can't get more on Russia's doorstep than that, right? And so they weren't happy with the previous regime being relatively pro-Russia and relatively anti-NATO. And so they orchestrated a coup under the Obama administration. The Obama State Department orchestrated a coup. And what that meant is, of course, here we go again. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so today, their friends in 2014 were neo-Nazis. And those were the people they then planted in Ukraine. Now, obviously, this was bad news for Vladimir Putin, because now his trump card of leaving this faction of effectively Russian citizens as Ukrainians to have that foothold in Ukraine was now pushed out. Now the overwhelmingly pro-Russians are isolated into the Donbass region, where they're now trying to declare their independence, and Ukraine's being run by the neo-Nazis. The neo-Nazis that were armed and supported by the West, by specifically NATO and the United States. Now, a lot of people, because I'm seeing it in the chat over here, a lot of people are talking about, missile defense treaties and things like that. The thing is that, so they installed these, there's a couple of different missile installation, these rocket launchers effectively, that were installed in Eastern Europe, very near Russia. There was, for one, there were installations that were meant to fire these anti-missile missiles. The idea being that, well, if Russia gets aggressive, if Russia starts doing, strikes or nuclear strikes towards the West, then we'll shoot them down. The thing is, and I know you're going to be super surprised by this, it's a total boondoggle. It's a total boondoggle just to make arms manufacturers and the deep state more money. They don't really work. And the West knows this, America knows this, and Russia knows this as well. Putin knows this as well. But they can't just ignore it, even if they know that it doesn't work, because it's still an encroachment in their eyes and a breaking of the agreement that they would not expand eastward, which they did. Now, the next thing is I know people will say, Russia's always really just wanted a warm water port, and for them to have the Ukraine just be a part of Russia again is something that they would want. And maybe they do. Maybe Putin is just that level of evil dictator who wants to take over some select parts of the world. I'm not going to sit here and make a prediction for you. I don't know what's going to happen to the rest of Ukraine. I don't know. I don't know if Russia is going to invade, occupy, and ultimately conquer the Ukraine, or if this is a flexing of their muscle as a warning to the West while they do ultimately absorb the Donbass region. I don't know. But I do want to say another thing really quick before we move forward into kind of, well, where are we now and what's going to happen next. This is another meta conversation. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of people on social media, um, a lot of people feeling scared, feeling uneasy. Not that they necessarily think the world's going to come to an end, but just they don't know how to feel about turning on the news and seeing these big scary foreign powers enforcing their will through strength of arms upon others. And I'm sorry that people feel that way, and it's certainly not any type of an excuse for it. But I do want to say this is how huge chunks of the rest of the world have felt for decades and decades as the American empire has been gallivanting around the world, imposing its will upon people. You're getting a taste now. If you're one of those people, if you're an average American who's sitting at home looking at this news and thinking, "Oh my God, that's terrible. I wonder what's going to happen to those people. I wonder what Russia's going to do next." Now you know how a lot of other people around the world have felt when America has bombed and invaded and occupied people around the world. They're just no longer the only game in town. So it's just something to consider. So with that said, why does Putin do what he does? We already talked about the Russian influence in the Ukraine, and Donbass, and now the whole. And again, I don't want to speculate over exactly how that's going to turn out. Other than my hunch is that the Ukraine is gonna remain a separate state. He's not gonna conquer the Ukraine and take it. I don't believe that. I think the Ukraine is gonna remain a state. And they can even keep Zelensky, their current president, and their retarded neo-Nazis can stay at home. But they're going to stay out of Russian affairs. And I'm not privy to internal State Department conversations, but I hope that the powers that be are discussing right now, one, how this all could have been avoided without the aggression from the West, without the eastward expansion. But at the bare minimum, they could have said, Ukraine will never join NATO. Ukraine is banned from joining NATO. It will never be a part of NATO, and we will never again at this point send arms and ammunitions further east than X. If they had done that, then that would have changed the kind of makeup of the situation. Does that mean that there would have never been a situation like this? I don't know, but I think it would have been different. Another thing is because I see people talking about Kiev and particular politicians and things like that. Another thing is that Russia, in particularly Putin's Russia, I don't see them like this isn't a revival of the Soviet Union. I don't see it that way at all. But we also have to talk about kind of the geopolitics of the whole region. So there's the issue with the Nord Stream pipeline and how dependent so much of Europe is on Russian energy, and how particularly between Russia and Germany, how this whole thing just puts a lot of people in a really tight space because at the end of the day, do you condone and support what Russia and Vladimir Putin does? Not no, or certainly not necessarily. Um, but there's that old Thomas Jefferson quote, commerce with all nations, alliances with none. There's a lot of nations on this earth right now whose tangential alliance to the American empire puts them at odds with having rational, perhaps necessary, commerce with their neighbors to the east. Um, so let's talk a little bit about what Joe Biden said, right? So Biden's awful. Everybody knows that. He's a piece of shit. Um, However, as I said on this program, I don't I cut him a lot of slack for the way he handled Afghanistan. And the reason I do is because we're out of fucking Afghanistan. Take a W where you can get it, ladies and gentlemen. Take a W where you can get it. And while he has announced, of course, all manner of mostly smoke and mirror sanctions on Russia, on Russian assets, on Russian banks, on particular individuals, and that's stupid, by the way. Um, he has said that there would be no U.S. forces in Ukraine, full stop. Now, I obviously want to preface that with politicians say lots of things that turn out not to be the truth. However, if it does turn out to be true that he super duper promises that there will not be a single U.S. casualty from getting involved in that theater, then bravo. Take a W where you can get it. The America should be staying out of it completely. Sanctions is not staying out of it completely. That's not good enough still. But if it means that no Americans get sent there, that's at least one thing. So anyway, I had a notification, but it wasn't any money. Where's my money? Where's my money at, huh? All right. So moving on. What happens next? That's a big one, right? So what's going to happen next? What we hope happens is that military operations are over quickly. I hate to be a huge spoiler, but Ukraine's not going to win that war. If that war may be over by the time the stream is over, so yeah, it's donezo. Russia has already totally occupied the Donbas region. Um, I saw an article where they're talking about how they had taken Chernobyl, which I thought was kind of funny. Um, but that they were on the march to Kiev. So Ukraine's done. It will be to everyone's benefit if Russia takes over Ukraine militarily and the Ukraine ultimately surrenders, but then the peace treaty that's written out says, well, this region is going to be independent. We're pulling out our forces. Don't have these armaments within X proximity. If that's the end of it, then that's good. That's nowhere near as bad as it could be. But I've seen a lot of people saying, well, what about China? What about China? What about China in twofold? One, how does this affect their relationship with Russia? And also, what does this mean for Taiwan? Well, do I know that anything's going to happen there? No. Do I hope nothing happens there? Of course not. Of course. Of course I hope nothing happens there. If China was going to just roll into Taiwan, plant their flag, and absorb it, would they do it now? Maybe. I hope that doesn't happen. But now would be a hell of a time for them to do it. Um, by the way, that still wouldn't change the fact that America should be staying out of it. America shouldn't even be in that hemisphere. Get the hell out. Roll everything back. Um, man, I gotta tell you, it's the point that just keeps on ringing with me is seeing people's reaction to the news and then thinking, this is what people's around the world reaction has been to when America does these things for decades. That doesn't mean that anybody deserves to get to feel the way that feels. It's just a matter of fact. Um, and another thing that I want to be really clear about before we get labeled as Russian apologists and shut down is, you know, war is the lifeblood of the state. And it doesn't discern who feels what way and who supports who. And for what will undoubtedly end up being innocent people who are maimed or killed in operations such as this, um, children, women, but of course men too. I stop myself because I kind of get mad when people say, "Well, what about the women and the children?" I'm like, "Well, what about the innocent men who are like, wait a minute, I'm not involved in this." You know, how many of those people were Nazis or were pro NATO or were Putin loyalists or whatever? What does it even matter if they ultimately got blown into tiny little pieces? We have to be anti-war, but we have to also understand why things happen. Because the lingering questions, I think, for folks like us, especially here at home, is we've seen time and time and time again how war or the threat of war gives terrible, evil politicians an excuse to wrap themselves in the flag and for people to rally to them. Despite everything, despite all the wars, despite everything, despite the war on terror, despite the quagmires like Afghanistan, despite everything, there's still a lot of people out there that they don't think Epstein killed himself, right? They hate taxes. They hate the IRS. Even some people coming around to, I don't really trust cops, God forbid, right? But a lot of the same people who might meet some of us halfway on some issues, boy, when it comes to war, when they start waving those flags and they start making it us versus them, they still fall right back into those same old traps. And you just can't do it. You just can't do it. So I that's a really, really, really broad overview of what's going on in that part of the world and how it got to that point and some of the people who were responsible for at least molding events for them to be the way they turned out. I hope that was at least somewhat informative. Yeah, Tim Weissong, midterms are 9 months away. Um, and I know that there's people out there that are making the observations of, well, it looks like COVID's winding down, so it's time to roll out the fear mongering and the war mongering. Um, I'm not really focused on all that right now. Um, so anyway, Mary, I hope that that paints at least a slight bit of a picture as to what's going on in the world. Uh, we gotta have cheerier goddamn things to talk about on these live streams than this. This is not cheerful news. But you know what? I will end that whole spiel with one of the same things I said yesterday, which was uh, the weight of the world can get you down, and there may not be a lot of things that you as a single person can do to ease that burden. But I bet there's a lot of things that you can do to make to improve yourself. Shed a few pounds, get in a little bit better shape. Work a little bit harder on those projects. Make a little bit more money. Spend a little bit more time with your loved ones and make it count. But there's a lot of things you could do to make your life a little bit better. And I bet if your life is a little bit better, then the weight of the world doesn't seem so much. Aaron says, "Make me laugh, funny man. I don't need any more depression today." Well, shit. Um, I mean, I could just tell some jokes. I mean, I don't know. Like, what does a baby look like in the microwave? I don't know. I close my eyes when I masturbate. Um, is anyway. Um, how about those Olympics? Are those over? Are the Olympics still happening, or are those over now? Um, so Mary says, "Oh no." Oh man. I mean, I kind of want to just. I mean, I kind of feel like we could have just played some games or something. I mean, I would have liked to have just like had some people on the show and for us to hang out and chit chat and whatever. But it's kind of last minute, and I didn't really feel like begging some foreign policy person to come on and talk about it. Um, so anyway, there we are. So now what? Now what are we doing? I haven't even been on for an hour. Also haven't gotten a single donation, a single new subscriber, a single Patreon subscriber. So I'm thinking at 1 hour we're probably going to be done unless we decide something else to do or the support starts rolling in. Um, I'm tired, y'all. I actually rode my bike before the stream tonight. Like, I literally just got out of the shower, so my hair's so wet, and then jumped on here. So I'm worn out. This is the end of my it's too late work week, Thursday nights. If Alan can tell dead baby jokes on Twitch, I can use whatever damn emote I want. No, you actually can't because you don't use the raid emote unless someone raids the channel, which there hasn't been a raid. So that's why you're not using the raid emote. And second of all, who said the baby was dead? Maybe we were just heating the baby up a little bit. So I never said the baby was kill, you know. Um, oh yeah, we forgot to do this on last night's show. Everybody should join me and my friends Dave and Mary for the 4th annual It's Too Late live show at the private Bon Aqua Computer Club in Bon Aqua, Tennessee. That's just south of Nashville. There's going to be a huge cookout. We're going to have a guy riding a unicycle and juggling knives. We're going to do a live show. There's going to be some jokes. There's going to be lots of fun, food, entertainment, drinking, etc., etc. Bring the kids, bring the whole family. That's June 4th, later this year, the 4th annual It's Too Late live show. But you got to get your tickets Because what happens is that you buy tickets to the show, and then I take that money, and then what I do with that money is whatever I want. So it's really important that you knock that out. So we got to get on that, you guys. Um, yep. If anyone else has any other questions or comments or whatever, let me know, because I got to squeeze out at least 9 more minutes before the stream is over, assuming we do end the stream at 1 hour. So anyway, that sounds fun, Tim. It's going to be a ton of fun. You should be there. A whole bunch of our folks are going to be there. It's going to be an absolute blast. I mean, what a great excuse for all of us to all congregate in one place to sing Kumbaya as the nuclear fallout comes for us. I mean, if this is the end, then at least we ring in the end of civilization. How high are gas prices going to get? Ooh, baby. Probably a little bit higher. That's all. That's all I'm gonna say. Probably a little bit higher. Um, yeah, like Hunter Biden high. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that, that's something that's just totally disappeared. Like, I know that people, every now and then you saw somebody talking over the last 6, 12, 18 months of, look at the people who are involved in Ukraine and energy companies in the Ukraine. Look at the Bidens. Look at some other folks. And it's like that. None of that shit even matters anymore, right? Do you know who Snoop Dogg is? I mean, I've never met Snoop Dogg, but I know who he is. Not really a big fan. I mean, I'm a jazz musician, so I'm not the best person to comment on that. Uh, yeah, it's kind of lonely here today for some reason. I should have had Anna Kay back on. I don't. Anna Kay wouldn't have had anything to say about Russia and Ukraine. It just would have given me somebody to hang out with. Um, yeah. I mean, we could just like, I don't know, we could just like play some music or something for the last 7 minutes here. Or I could just go now. I mean, it's, the world's your oyster, really. It's whatever you guys want to do. Um, this is what happens when you don't get like at least a few hundred plus people in chat. Is there's not enough movement, so there's not enough energy in the room. And Dave's in bed, and Mary is putting the kids down. So, oh, Mary's back. Okay. Do you like all the cool war footage though? No, I don't. I don't think it's cool at all. People dying. Um, yeah. G's trying to get some work done. uh, yeah. Well, Mary, you didn't really miss much. We probably only got like 5.5 minutes, and we're gonna get out of here because I haven't received a single donation, new subscriber, or anything. So we're probably out of here in 5 minutes. Is everyone prepared for no grid from Russian and Chinese cyber attacks? Uh, it's going to make it a little bit difficult to do this show, as for sure. What instrument do you play? I play guitar and sing. Um, but not for free, I don't. But yeah, I do. Uh, where was that one passenger plane shot down a few years back? Wasn't that Ukraine? I'll let you Google that. Don't take down the grid. We have pot to grow. Yes, I dig it, Alan. Thanks for coming on today. Well, you're very welcome. Oh man, we're all just gonna have to sit around and wait to see what happens next, right? Oh, one thing I didn't tell you guys on the show last night is, do you guys remember when I told that story on the show about back when I used to have a printing business, that a member of the KKK showed up to my shop asking me to make business cards? That clip got shared by an actual honest to God white nationalist group. I mean, like, there was a swastika in their logo, so I'm pretty sure like these guys are hardcore, and they shared my clip from the show about the KKK asking for business cards, and I was like, should I like block them, or should I be like, well, y'all seem like nice guys, but it's like, mm. I mean, it was on Odyssey, and that's kind of the whole point of Odyssey, right? Is that it's a free speech platform. I say that myself every week during our little advertisement. So I was like, all right, that's cool, I guess. I'm glad that I'm kind of glad that I'm cultivating such a new audience. Did you ask if they need more business? Well, I'm out of the business now, Ryan. I don't make business cards anymore. There is nothing on this earth that could get me to go back into printing and graphic design. Nothing. Um, I had my fill of it. I blew my whole 20s running a printing business, so I'm done with that. Influences as far as music goes. I'm assuming that's what you meant. Um, so I learned to play guitar when I was in high school by just learning all of John Mayer's tunes. It was after college, then I segued into jazz. I do a lot of standards when I'm asked to perform in places like for benefit concerts and like big band type things. They always like to have some resident like stand in for Sinatra, and that's usually me. Um, but I do like a lot more classical versions of things than like, for instance, like a Michael Bublé. It's not really my scene. Um, so yeah, um, a lot of the typical Rat Pack type stuff. Um, but I also play guitar as well. Um, I've been practicing a little bit because I think I might get back into performing a little bit. Maybe I'll play everybody a song on June 4th at the live show. It'll be like you had to be there. If you were there, you got to see Alan perform some tunes. If you weren't there, you don't get to see it. So we'll see. Um, do it. Yeah. Well, okay. If I do it, it'll be June 4th at the fourth annual It's Too Late live show. So we'll think about it. Mary, you'll have to bring your tambourine. We'll crush it. Um, oh, we're at 59 minutes and some seconds, so we're almost done. Does anybody have a final thought that they want to share before we get out of here? Why is there a Zig Heil emoji? Dude, I don't know. Fly Me to the Moon. I recorded Fly Me to the Moon on an EP that I did. My old producer Blake at the studio recorded some songs for me, and Fly Me to the Moon was one of them. I did an 8-song like little EP of just a bunch of standards and then one or two little independent tunes that I played myself, and Fly Me to the Moon was one of them. Uh, I'm not gonna sing or play tonight though. That ain't happening. But Mac the Knife. So actually, Mac the Knife was on there too, Aaron. So you have named two of the 8 songs I did on my EP. I did Fly Me to the Moon and I did Mac the Knife. Yeah, go wake up Dave, and he's like, oh, hey, what is it? Say, hey, do you have a final thought? Alan needs to know real quick. He's got like a minute. Uh, anyway. So you think we should raid somebody? No, I didn't do my way. I didn't want to. I wanted to have predominantly upbeat tunes on there. Is your EP available anywhere to listen? Yes. Ha ha ha, he'd kill me tomorrow. Okay. Well, if it's gonna be like a murder-suicide situation, don't do it. But, you know. No, we're not gonna play any of my songs. No, Mary. No. We're not doing that. One night on you guys' super late night stream, y'all pulled up the site that had my songs and played one or two of them. So I'm not trudging it back up. Get your iodine tablets and we'll see you next time. What's the blues track that starts the show? That's just some track that we got for it. It's not by anyone famous or anything like that. I have played on the show before, way back, but that's not me. I mean, I guess I could probably, I don't know. I'm not gonna do it. If anybody's curious enough, they can go find my music online. All they have to do is search Alan Mosley Reverb Nation, and they'll find it. It's not hard. That was a while back. Nowadays, don't get to do as much music anymore. Definitely not since, the pandemic. I used to do like one or two like annual shows before 2020. The last one I did was in 2019 actually, and I haven't done one since then. I think that might be permanently behind us. I don't know. I you know what? I have to get a lot more rich and famous so that way if I feel like just putting on a jazz show, I can pay out of pocket to go get like 8, 10, 12 piece group to come in, set up on a stage, and us rock out. Like I would totally do that for our annual live event. Except for that costs a lot of money. Like I'm gonna be out of pocket $3 or $4 grand at least to bring in the players to play the tunes that I would to do it how I would want to do it, and I don't have that laying around. So when we raise like $4,000 just totally pre-show for our annual event, I'll bring in a band and we'll do a concert. Until then, nah. Your bassist, who's a mechanic, is coming to look at your truck tomorrow. Well, I hope it turns out to not be anything too serious, Aaron. If there's a nuclear war, I'm going to make angels in the radioactive ash. Well, don't let your dreams be dreams, Well, it's 4 minutes past, so you know what that means. So, Mary, do you have a final thought? Swole Keesley, do you have a final thought? Eric Ruesdale, no idea who that could be. Do you have a final thought? Tim Wysong, do you have a final thought? Alan needs to bring Ryan on for the after party. No, Alan's tired. I'm only even doing the streams to try to drum up more support for the show, and we're at nada. So this show's over. We're out of here. Beans, yeah. But Tim, do you put beans in your chili? Did we mention our new sponsor, Pat Crest Botanicals? I don't know if Aaron shared the link in chat or not. But check this shit out. Pat Crest Botanicals has all manner of gummies and Delta 8 and CBD oil and tons of cool shit. It all is thoroughly tested, very high quality, shipping to all 50 states. And you can put in a promo code It's Too Late, all one word, for 30% off, which supports our sponsor and supports the show. So there you go. Just another way you can support the program. Also, make sure to get your ticket to the 4th annual It's Too Late live show that's happening June 4th. Boy, that's going to be here before you know it. It's only like 3 months from now and some change. Mary's drawing a blank. Well, now you know how Dave feels every week. Mary, you got to tell Dave to get his ticket. Mary, Dave's got to get his ticket. I'm going to assume Dave's not coming until I see him. You guys are the best. Maybe, I don't know, maybe next week we play some games. Maybe we get all of our serious talking out of our systems on Monday and Wednesday. Maybe on Thursday we'll play some games or something, or play some music. I don't know, we gotta figure out, since the Thursday's the end of our week as it pertains to programming for this show. So maybe Thursday we got to turn it into something lighthearted and fun, so that we're kind of like heading into the weekend on a light note, as opposed to, you know, World War III. I love games. Yeah, who doesn't? Yeah. Tier list Thursday. Ryan, we did have somebody ask us if we were going to do a former Soviet satellite tier list where we were going to rank all the countries in the Soviet bloc. Jesus Christ. I mean, we could do that. We got to start having donation incentives. So when somebody says, "Hey, you should do this," then we should say, "Okay, well, if you raise, you know, whatever, $50, then we'll do that thing." Yes, glorious nation of Kazakhstan must be the best. That's correct. Guys, thank you so much. Enjoy your weekends. Go see Liberty Late Night tomorrow night. I'll be back here on Monday. Maybe I'll be here over the weekend. Who the hell even knows anymore? You're the best. I love you. Don't get killed. Don't go to Eastern Europe. We'll see you next week. But hold on, we gotta raid somebody. Hold on, we gotta raid somebody. I just remembered we're supposed to raid somebody, and then I'm leaving. Who am I raiding? Shit. We're gonna raid Lack Attack. We're raiding Lack Attack. He's playing the original Zelda 1. Go in there. I like Lack. He's a Clemson fan, but you'll have to forgive him for that. This is like the world record holder for the original Zelda on the NES. This guy's like the best Zelda player on Earth. So we're going to raid this guy and go say hello to him. And I will see you guys next time.